Hello everyone, this is Rob, and this is Thaco Thoughts with Rob, episode 2. Today's episode we're going to be talking about saving throws, and the difference between a traditional saving throw and a ability check using your stats. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what the book says about saving throws. If you look on page 133 in the green book, it says, the saving throw represents an instinctive act on the part of the character. Now, the word instinctive is going to be very important to this explanation. The way I see it, the difference between an ability check and a saving throw is that an ability check is a proactive action. A saving throw is a reactive action. The ability score check is when your character is sitting down, they have a particular skill that they want to use. They've been trained. It's not necessarily even tied to their character class. For example, a fighter who has the fishing proficiency can basically go to a lake, get their rod out, bait, all this other stuff. They're thinking about it. They can take their time with it. It's a skill that they use. So it's very appropriate for them to just simply be able to roll one of their ability checks to see if they succeed or fail. But saving throws are different. Saving throws represent your character's built-up experience as an adventurer. It builds up their instincts. It builds up their reactions, their toughness, stemming strictly from their level as an adventurer. The proficiencies, whether you use them or not, are add-ons to the game. They're an optional rule. So you can be a fighter who has the fishing skill, but you're not a fisherman. You're a fighter that just simply knows how to fish. You can be that fighter without being a fisherman. Okay? So what we should be concentrating on is who you are as your class. And the saving throws represent that. Represent your level, represent your class, even represent your race. One of the things we need to acknowledge right off the bat is that this is a level-based game. And a 10th level fighter should have a better chance at survival than a first level fighter. But if you're using ability checks instead of saving throws, well, you're putting that first level fighter on the same exact ground as a 10th level fighter. Matter of fact, and if that first level fighter just happens to have higher stats, well, that means that a first level fighter is more survivable than a 10th level fighter. And that goes against the spirit of a level-based game. So, what we're going to do is, I'm going to demonstrate how broad these saving throw categories are and how you can use them, because you don't really need to use your attributes in this way, because the saving throws basically cover everything you can possibly think of. So if you turn to page 134 and 135, it will explain to you the broader implications of each of the saving throws. So the first one we're going to start with is paralyzation, poison, and death magic. What it says is, this saving throw can also be used in situations in which exceptional force of will or physical fortitude are needed. So that could be a whole bunch of different things. And one of the situations I came up with is, let's say that you are on guard duty and you haven't had any sleep in several days. Well, now you're fighting sleep. You can make a saving throw versus paralyzation, poison, and death magic to be able to stay awake or not. That's just one example. The next saving throw is rod, staff, or wand. So this also says this saving throw is sometimes specified for situations in which a character faces a magical attack from an unusual source. Now, the so-called unusual source can be kind of hard to define. What could that mean? Well, if it's not a traditional magical item or something like that, it could be maybe it's an attack by a god, or maybe it's some sort of residual effect, divine residual effect, because it's not a very easily defined thing. It could be some sort of field. It could be some sort of maybe an environmental effect that you have to resist. Okay. The next one is petrification or polymorph. It can also be used when the character must withstand some massive physical altercation to his body. Now, it says massive physical alteration of his entire body. Well, wouldn't that just be polymorph, right? So to me, this could represent maybe a non-magical situation. Maybe this represents massive trauma. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one because it seems to be like when you're looking at this, it could also use when the character must withstand some massive physical alteration to his entire body. Well, that's polymorph. So I'm just gonna leave it there because I think I'm digging a hole right there. All right. So the next one is save versus breath weapon. This save can also be used in situations where a combination of physical stamina and dexterity are critical factors in survival. This could be a situation where your character is having to maybe go through an obstacle course that not only has skill, like, you can have attribute rolls, but it's maybe riddled with all types of traps that you have to navigate, and you have no time to sit there and search for traps or anything like that. Everything is like you're like running through this gauntlet of obstacles, and there's boulder traps, pit traps, and you have no time to sit there to try to figure out any of these traps. You're just trying to get by them. So you can basically use this to see if you make it through this gauntlet of traps. And that's just one example. Now, save versus spell is kind of funny because save versus spell is a catch-all category. It says right here at the bottom, this save can also be used to resist an attack that defies any other classification. Now, that's a really broad category. And I think that is going to be situational to a specific game. So if you're sitting there as a dungeon master and you can't think of what the saving throw would be, just say save versus spell. It's the catch-all category, right? Now, this also brings back the idea that there is a priority to these saving throws. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to start at the top with paralyzation, poison, and death magic, and you're simply supposed to go down the list to see if this situation is covered by any of these categories. But remember, some of these things can fall under different categories. Like you might have a situation where breath weapon could be used, or rod, staff, or wand. Well, rod, staff, or wand is the priority. So that's what you would roll. If whatever's on top, whatever's on higher up on the totem pole, so to speak, is what you're supposed to roll, even if it might be covered by multiple categories. We've covered the differences between using stats and using saving throws, and the importance of wanting to represent your level as a character. You don't want to basically make a high level character and a low level character the same. You want to be able to say that that higher level character has built up the instinct, has built up the experience to be able to survive on the job better than some newbie that just got out of high school or something. So I'm going to leave it there, and I hope I have made my point as preserving the spirit of the game by sticking with the saving throw categories and resisting, even though it might seem easier in the moment to use the attribute. You should really stick with the saving throw if you want to represent a truly experienced character over an inexperienced one. And on that note, I will see you next time. Side note, this isn't to imply that you cannot use your attributes to help out with your saving throws. On page 135 at the bottom, it says high ability scores. It says in dexterity and wisdom, sometimes give saving throw bonuses. A high wisdom protects against illusions, charms, and other mental attacks. Dexterity, if high enough, can give a character a slightly higher chance of avoiding the effects of fireballs, lightning bolts, crushing boulders, and other attacks where nimbleness may help. So check with your dungeon master to see if you can apply, your attribute bonuses to your saving throw.